I was at a real estate conference a few months ago, and I sat down at a restaurant to grab a quick bite to eat during one of the networking breaks. And I saw a group of 4 guys kind of going over their notes for the weekend, talking about what they had learned, sharing their thoughts. So I decided to go over there, talk to them, network with them. And I asked if I could join. They said yes. So we sat down and started talking. And early into the conversation, they started mentioning that they're really focused on effective sales strategies, trying to give live presentations, how to get people to invest with you, basically. And one of the 4 guys brought up that he had a, quote, master's in NLP, which is short for neurolinguistic programming. Now, definitely not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but generally speaking, if you say you have a master's in something, usually this means that you studied it at a university and were at a postgraduate level. But turns out that's not what he meant. And he took a program which granted him a master's practitioner certificate, which is obviously something that means something very different to most people that aren't familiar with the NLP language, which I wasn't. Either way, it was kind of an interesting start to the conversation. I think that kind of circles back in a moment. Long story short, he went through some of the strategies about eye contact, thinking about where people look. If they're lying, they look to the right. If they're telling the truth, they look to the left, or whatever it is for that specific person. I'm not really familiar with the literature. And I'm sure a lot of you kind of know what I'm talking about. This is something that's very common in the sales world. Here's the thing. I don't find NLP extremely compelling. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are very successful at this and also have had a lot of success generally in life that have focused on it. But first of all, if you start a conversation with someone that you don't know very well, and you mention the fact that you spend a lot of time studying NLP, rightly or wrongly, the people you're talking to, they're going to be a little hesitant about whether or not they should trust you, given that maybe they don't even know what NLP really means, but they understand that it's something that they maybe even can't control. So they feel like they're kind of being tricked during the conversation. So from my perspective, the first rule of NLP, don't talk about NLP, because it can put you in a challenging situation, especially if you're just meeting someone. They may feel a little hesitant about, the conversation going forward. Second of all, once he kind of went through a brief introduction about his perspective on the NLP topic, I let everyone kind of respond, and I also kind of share my perspective. I think that focusing on NLP, focusing a lot of time on this is kind of focusing on the wrong things. Here's why. Let's say that these strategies were extremely successful, more successful than any other sales strategy that we've ever heard of. Let's say if you normally had a close ratio of 15%, and when you learned about NLP, the close ratio went from 15% to 30%. That'd be a 100% increase. That would be basically wildly successful. So if you were presenting in a room of 10 people, this is going from closing 1.5 on average to 3 on average. The issue is that presenting in front of 10 people is not really going to help you move the needle of your business. In my opinion, you should be focusing your efforts on not going from closing 1.5 people to 3 people. You should be focusing on how to get from presenting from 10 people to 1,000 or 10,000. Going from presenting to 10 people to 1,000 would be a 100x change in the number of people that you could potentially pitch to and talk about your particular offering to. Now, let's say that I didn't study NLP and my close ratio is 15%. Well, if I went from talking to 10 people to now talking to 1,000, I would now have 150 investors. Now, granted, once you start to scale, there could be some reasons that your close ratio would decrease. But let's just say for the sake of simplicity that you did actually take it from, 1.5 investors to 150 investors. If you had 150 investors investing $65,000 a piece, that would be close to $10 million of equity, which is enough to buy probably $30 million worth of commercial real estate. See, now we're really talking. So the goal should be really try to get in front of as many people as possible. Basically, if you're focusing on the sales strategy, you're limiting yourself a little bit because you're playing small when the opportunity is there to be playing at a massive level. This is why it's all about the top of the funnel. And that was kind of the point that I made in the conversation. And his response was, well, yeah, but it's easy to get in front of 1,000 people. All I have to do is go to a homeless shelter and present to a bunch of people there. And the issue isn't the number of people, it's that those people aren't going to invest. This is the reason I want to talk to you guys about this today. That was literally the quote that he mentioned. And it was a very special moment for me because it shows that the book that I'm writing right now is needed. Because that's where his head went immediately. And this is very, very common. to think, oh, well, if it's 1,000 people that you're potentially pitching to, then it must not be very quality leads. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. There has never been a better time to create a highly scalable infrastructure to attract leads, nurture them through educational content, and close either over the phone or in-person meetings or on webinars, which don't even take your time, by the way, or all of the above. So, of course, this is exactly what my whole book is about, raising capital for real estate. It's going to be available for pre-sale November 2nd, and I am very excited about this. And first of all, I really appreciate the gentleman that was kind of sharing his thoughts with me. Hopefully he's listening to this. I did give him a card. It is an incredible time to be focusing on the top of the funnel. And this pre-sale, which is starting on November 2nd, it's going to be awesome because it actually gives you a video series, which I created called Closing Strategies for High Net Worth Investors. Now, I know in the beginning of this, I maybe said focusing on the close isn't really the best way to scale your business. Don't worry. It's not what you think. It's not really about closing strategies. It's about the system at which it really streamlines the process of closing, which, by the way, will be a lot easier if you focus on the top of the funnel and creating that lead nurture structure. So the website is being built right now. As you probably assume, we're building the plane while we're driving it, so to speak. But once the website is up, I'll send you a link. And you guys, we are about to light the block on fire when this thing launches because there's been a lot of interest here. It's an incredible time to raise capital for real estate. Plus, I know this topic has gotten a lot of attention recently, so I'm super looking forward to it. All right, have a good day. All right, listeners, you know the routine. This show is all about learning, making wise investments, and protecting and growing your capital. So if you're interested in these topics, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Of course, if you've already enjoyed a couple of great episodes, don't be shy. Leave a review. It really helps the show's visibility. And lastly, if you're an accredited investor and you're interested in learning more about our investment opportunities, the types of deals that I personally invest in, go to asymcapital.com. That's ASYMcapital.com. Thanks a lot.